back to Fandom Family Chats. I'm your host, Maureen, and tonight we are joined with Amanda.
Hello.
And Tiffany.
Hello.
And Bethany.
Hi.
And tonight we're talking The Resident episode 7. And this, like, when I thought about this episode as an overview, I thought, not a lot really happened. But when I started to actually break it down, like, there's a lot of stuff that went on in this episode, like a lot of stuff. And you don't really pick up on it until you go back and dig deep, because the first time you're just absorbing it all. And then when you go back with or without sound, because I did it without sound, but when you go back, you actually realize all the things that happened. And it was a really good episode, I think.
It was. I enjoyed this episode. So I actually really enjoyed seeing Devin become kind of like Conrad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the little speeches he was giving, I loved the feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, it's like a little complete circle.
Even his outfit.
Yeah.
Because when he first walked in, they just showed him from the knees down. I was like, oh, Conrad's walking in. And then they scanned him like, oh, that's not Conrad.
Devin is turning into him though, and I'm not complaining.
What did he say? He said, if you want to survive, stick with me or listen to me or something like that. But that's uncannily like what Conrad said to him on his first day.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So that was really neat. I like I feel like at the beginning of The Resident, we're hyper focused on Conrad and Nick.
Mm-hmm.
That's who we were focused on.
Yeah.
And I feel like now they're taking Devin and Leela and like turning them into that same kind of spotlight, like the shower scene. Nick and Conrad had that exact same shower scene.
They did?
I feel like there was a shower scene.
I remember that all. I remember in the first episode there was a on-call room scene, but
Devin and Leela had their on-call room scene too, and it was like the same kind of angle.
I blocked those out.
Okay, am I going crazy? There was a shower, Nick
It probably was.
Nick and Conrad shower scene. Because as soon as Devin and Leela did it, it popped in my brain. I was like, oh my gosh, they did it again. and then Devin almost saying the exact same thing as Conrad said to him. I was like, okay, I think I see what they're playing at.
Yeah. Transfer of power.
Yes. Yeah, which also kind of scares me. I don't want Conrad to leave.
Well, I think too that what they've done, I think what they had to do is I think they had to transfer Conrad's power to Devin, because otherwise it would solely be about Conrad still. Because when Conrad has the power, he's this enigma who does all things incredibly well. Like Conrad does all things really well. There's nothing he does that's not well. Devin has specialties. He's really good at what he does. But Conrad is diagnostically a superhero. He's into every single aspect. He's got all these different background things. So if he were the one to remain in power, it would still be about him. But I think what they're doing in this season, which I think is a really good thing, they're making it more of an ensemble. Because even in the first 5 minutes, you see Devin and his interns, you see Belle, you see Trevor and Billy, you see AJ and Carol, you see all these people right away in the beginning. Where if you look back to the first couple seasons, it was Conrad heavy until middle of the episode. Yeah. It was still Conrad heavy, but that's when they started to introduce new characters. So I think you're right. They are doing a Devin and Leela thing and making them the center couple, but I think they're opening it to be more of a complete ensemble now.
I see that. I didn't notice it until you just said it, but I see that.
Shut up.
I don't even want to see that face right now.
See?
I know what you're thinking over there.
Now you guys are seeing this video for the first time, and now you get to see all my arrogant facial expressions.
So you did mention Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
He's an intern. I want to discuss Trevor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go into that,
about Trevor.
Yes, I want to hear what everyone's thought was the moment he spoke for the first time in this episode. What was all of your thoughts? Him. Yes,
I wanted to punch him. Mm-hmm. I was like, you do not talk like that. Excuse me.
I think I actually wrote in the chat, man, I hope someone smacks that kid. Just, it was even the smile on his face. It was like, oh my gosh, you need to be taken down like 7 pegs.
I like that he's going into anesthesia. Sorry, I'm watching
I like that they made that clear though, because we were wondering that on the last podcast episode.
Yes.
Of where we knew he was going to come back. We just felt it in our bones that he was coming back. We didn't know where he was going to fit.
Yep. I love it too. And I mean, he was very confident when he started. I was like, oh, great. He's going to be like that all-star. And then when he said, I barely made it through medical school,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, okay. Then maybe he's not going to be an all-star at the beginning. Maybe that's AJ's going to have to really take him under his wing.
Mhm. Yeah.
I noticed too, like when they showed Trevor having one of his arrogant moments, and then they kind of like shifted to AJ, and it almost was like they're trying to say,
Ooh.
like, when AJ came in, although I think he was more mature and less offensive as Trevor, but when he came in, he was young and arrogant, and he felt like he was the top, much like Trevor came in to make himself seem like that. So it was almost kind of like, here's where he's starting, and
Mhm.
like resolution,
Yeah.
almost full circle.
And I think too that with Trevor, like I don't remember what it took for AJ. I think was it Mina confronting him that softened AJ in the beginning?
I think
Because
so. I think it was Mina.
AJ's always been arrogant, but we talked about this, that his arrogance was earned arrogance because he's good at what he does, but the ego is something that's new in the last couple episodes. He didn't really have, like, he just knew, like almost like black and white thinking, no, I'm amazing at this. And I know I'm amazing at this. Why would you want anybody else? Because I'm amazing at this. And now it's almost like I'm amazing at this, and all of you are peasants underneath me. So, and that's what it feels like now. But with Trevor, his moment was a really big moment that had to humble him. And I like that Devin picked up on it right away too, before this even happened. Because what was the patient who was brought in? He sent Trevor to do something when he was assigning the interns to go be with people. How did that work out, Amanda?
He assigned him to go do a blood draw.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, blood draw.
He's like, a guy is sitting over there with a hand barely attached. And Devin says, every single patient that comes in here is important. That patient that needs his blood drawn is just as important as that guy needing his hand sewed back on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but
yeah. I mean, I feel like that's exactly what he said word for word. I mean, I feel like you wrote that.
I just watched it.
Credits, but
Amanda was uncredited in this episode. We just want you to know.
I wish. I need my paycheck.
And you saw that happen over and over again with those interns. There was the one, I wish I remembered all their names, but the only part I really watched to refresh, like I went over the pictures, so it was wordless, so I didn't hear the words, but I saw what was happening. And the only part I watched was when they're all introducing themselves, and there's the one guy who was it Brad was internal medicine or something like that, and like, oh no, he was private practice or something like that. And the girl said, "Ooh, I hope you had some good student loans. Essentially, you're not going to make any money." And then the other girl's like, I am. I mean, I don't mean I am. I mean, I am.
I am.
You see these personalities where the internal medicine girl is very like, la, 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 la. And then you see this Brett guy who seems very confused by a lot, because when that girl said that about a student loan, he was like, what? I don't get the joke.
Yeah.
So he was timid. And then you see this other girl who's just almost like AJ in her stark snarkiness.
Yeah.
And then there's Trevor, who thinks he knows everything. So you see these in there, and it's the guy who is confused about everything who got sent to go help with the guy with the hand falling off. And Devin kept pulling him back there. So we see with the alcoholic that he was sent to. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Devin was right to be as mad as he was. There's a patient that, he suspected was in withdrawal, an alcoholic. Yet he literally put the bottle, we had to rewind it and watch it again because we saw that. We're like, wait, am I really watching this? Where did that come from? Because she's alcoholic and withdrawal. He puts, the bottle within her reach. He basically sets her up for this just to prove a point, just to prove that, hey, she really is an alcoholic. Nobody else believed him. And so we're watching her drink it, and I had to rewind it and read the label, like, what is she drinking and how did it get there? And then we realized, well, put it there. And so that was pretty crazy. I like the way how Conrad kind of summed it up. If you put your interests before, the patient's interests, that's a big no. So, I obviously agree with Conrad on that one, and with Devin, the way they did that. I think he just got, again, he was arrogant. He wanted to prove himself right versus, actually care for the patient. So
Yeah.
that was a pretty crazy thing, because, she could have gotten help,
Yeah.
whether she received it or not.
And I like that Devin said that specifically.
Yes. We could have helped her. We could have saved her. And now she's checking herself out,
Mhm.
because Devin's kind of been through that too, like with that pilot that he
Yeah.
released, so he had to learn his own hard lessons, and hopefully this is going to be another lesson for Trevor, and we hope that, they're not, fatal consequences to that, but I think he's going to think twice next time when he's treating a patient, who's having to learn things the hard way. But that was definitely an intense situation.
And I think that ties into what AJ said a few episodes ago, when he said this idea of abandonment is something that's going to stay with you forever unless you get over it, move on, whatever. That's playing in here, because at first, when he was dealing with this alcoholic patient, he was telling her when's the last time he had a drink, which is information he needs to know. I mean, if you're treating this person and you know that this is their problem, you need to know when the last time it. So at first I was like, I actually wrote in the chat, oh, I actually kind of like how he handled this. And then when he came back, I went, I have a feeling I'm not going to agree with how he handles it anymore. And Tiffany's like, I'm waiting for you to get there. I'm waiting for you to get there. So at first, I was on board with how he approached this woman. I thought he did it well. I thought he did it right. Her reaction is in line with an addict. That makes sense. But once she reacted is when I was like, oh, yeah, you're no longer in the right dude. Because she's an addict and she almost has no control in her withdrawal. She has no control of what she's doing. And for you to attack her as a medical professional, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And then giving her the alcohol, obviously, I mean, how dumb. And so, but you see that the reason he did it, and I don't justify it at all, I think he's an idiot. Well, hopefully I hope he's going to have a Bell style arc, because I want to like him, but right now I really don't like this kid.
Same.
Is definitely a theme in this show.
So I think that he was mad that he wasn't given more important roles, because look who I am. I should be given more. But I don't think he really thought that about himself, as we see later on, that we'll discuss later on his relationship with Billy and what they talk about. But you kind of get the gist in this episode that he doesn't truly think that, but he's still trying to prove himself because of that idea that everyone's going to leave him if he's not good enough. And that happened here when Devin came in the room and he was immediately like, what did you do? And then he's like, I didn't do anything. I'm trying to help her. And then it was again like, really, you're gonna do this to me too? I'll show you. I'll prove to you. And it was still, he let that sense of abandonment infiltrate how he treats patients. And the way I do like that Conrad pointed that out too. And he said, if you put yourself before your patients again, then Devin is right. You have no place as a doctor. You should not be a doctor.
Right.
Because you're going to kill somebody.
Right.
Yep.
Because if
Absolutely.
he was even Devin pointed that out when he was apologizing, like he put it himself in the apology. He was still, if you will, serving himself even in that apology. So if he applies that to how he treats patients, like you said, I mean, that's not good for the patient. They have to be treated properly based off of their condition and not off of, what points he's trying to prove.
Yeah.
But I think that was a big enough wake-up call for him. I'm hoping that that's gonna be his breakthrough moment, at least leading into his breakthrough. I can't see him immediately the next patient suddenly doing the same kind of thing, but I think it's going to be a long process for him, because he's got, and as it would be for any character or for any person in real life for that matter, it's going to be a process for him, but I think that's going to help shove that process in the right direction. So, but it'll be cool to see what they're going to do.
I like too how Conrad handled with Trevor, because he kind of, I think Conrad, again, he's good at everything he does. And this is not just because I like Matt Zucker. This is how they wrote his character. They wrote his character to be not just an amazing human, but in terms of the profession he is a maverick, but he is incredibly intuitive. And that's why he's so good. And so when he told Devin, let me have a crack at him. Let me do this. Because I think he knew the root of why he was doing what he was doing. So bringing him to Carol was brilliant on Conrad's part, because it's just showing Conrad, and that happens earlier too, when Conrad is told he lost his touch. He's bringing Trevor in to say, you know what, I know why you're doing this. Let's show you what it really means to be faced with someone who's dying and is genuinely in need of your assistance and your help. And let's see how we come out of that.
Absolutely.
And so it was nice to see Conrad back there like that.
Yeah, I like the conversation that they had with God, what is her name? Carol. I
Yeah.
can't think of her name.
Mhm.
I can't think of Summer. I like the conversation that they all had with Carol and the way that he, so he was like a different person speaking to Carol
Mhm.
than he was with everybody else in
Yeah.
the entire hospital. It was
yeah.
not. She kind of has that calming ability on people though, because a lot
Yeah.
of times when she talks to any of the other doctors, she's got that way of just
Yeah.
calming them down.
She's
It's
Mama
nice.
Carol.
I think
is.
she has that respect from
Yes.
Conrad, kind of like a mom. Like
Mhm.
that's how he's gonna talk to her with respect, because that's
Yeah.
like a mom.
And I think that's why he brought Trevor in there, because AJ had the same background as Trevor. And this is AJ's mom, who's not his biological mom, but they're fighting to save because she chose to love AJ.
Yeah.
And so for Trevor to see that, like when Trevor got emotional in that scene, I was like, oh, okay, I'm starting to like you a little bit now that you're getting emotional about this.
Yeah, kind of redeemed himself a little bit there, and
Conrad redeemed him. That's why we need
That's true.
Conrad more.
that is true. Yeah. Speaking of Conrad, what do you think of the way Chastain's trying to woo him back?
It felt
love
a little
it.
weird at first.
Did it? I love the Gigi scene.
That's when it stopped being
So
weird.
cute.
And he's just like,
She's so cute.
I love that he was bribing her with a single goldfish. I'm sorry. My kid would be like, no, I need more than one, please.
My kid would be like, goldfish. Where's my ice cream?
Where are my Snickers bars? The full-size ones, not the minis.
That would not have worked on my child, even when he was one.
So that just shows, again, speaking of how good Conrad is, that his kid is somehow like just as good as he is, because she's like, I'll suffice on one goldfish and be cute and adorable and sweet. I love seeing that kid on the screen. I didn't mean that to come out so like murdery as it came out, but I love seeing that kid on the screen. I love that kid.
She was so happy. I love it.
I love how everything went out the window. Like, who cares about the goldfish? Who cares about the gold shoe? I love this woman home.
But first he's like, so what are we gonna say when they ask how we like it? It's not as good as home. I hope that this is a lead in too to how much more we're gonna see of Belle's grandkids, because when she said that and Belle gave a genuine reaction, I feel like he's like, but is it better than home? No.
I loved it.
That was so perfect. And you're wondering how they're gonna play that in. So it's just perfect, like that. Hey, Gigi wants to be there. This is where
Yes.
she wants her time to be spent, and so that's how it kind of works it out. Because you're thinking the whole time, how is he gonna be Conrad of Chastain again
Yeah.
with Gigi? And I know they had that nanny, but like how is he gonna fit the two worlds together? And then just that Gigi just kind of put those two worlds together for him was actually really cool. And I think that was a nod to Nick also. Nick's she's the strong one, that she's gonna come and she's gonna, a lot of times she had the solutions, like she said, like even Conrad said about Nick, she's mine and Gigi's whole world. So it was almost kind of like that was her legacy kind of flowing into that. Like here, Nick's not there to help you through these situations, but an echo of Nick is there to help you through these situations, even in child form. I thought that was cool. Like if they were doing that on purpose, like a little nod to that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And even I just almost called her Summer too. I'm so sorry. Even Carol, when she gave that little nod to Nick, she's just a spitting image of Nick. I was like, oh.
It was. They really got an actress to look just like Nick.
Oh yeah, they did a phenomenal job with the casting.
They did an incredible job casting Gigi.
Well, I want to talk to someone in casting or someone who wrote the show, because I remember saying And one of the early, like when we first saw Gigi as a baby, we were all talking about how adorable she was, and man, was she cute as a baby. But I remember mentioning that I felt like there was a bit of CGI to her still in her face. And I think that that's why. I think they already had the older Gigi cast, and they wanted to make sure that it was cohesive and it could be younger to older. And holy crap, that older kid looks exactly like that baby did. So
Yeah.
I think there was a little bit of CGI on that infant to make it tie into Gigi. And that makes me feel better. But I could be wrong too, and there may not have been any CGI at all. But I'm gonna go with my normal bent here and say that I'm right about it. And just, I think that's I feel good that that's how they did it, and it was for the sake of making the story cohesive, I think, and that was good.
I think so too. And I think they took advantage of the time jump because now Gigi herself can be a character.
Yeah.
You know, she may not, obviously have the same screen time as the other characters, but she can actually contribute to the storyline.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Versus just
Stupid child labor laws.
Well,
I'm kidding. I support those, by the way. I like how they introduced that because he said, you wouldn't be here if you didn't want to come back in some way. That's what Bella said to Conrad. He said, why are you here? And he said, Jilly would kill us if we didn't say this. She would. But Conrad said, for the same reason you're here, no one really says no to Kit Voss.
yes.
I mean, if we didn't mention that, because Kit is not in this episode, which, did anyone miss her? I missed her.
I did. I
I
kept
very much
looking for
so.
her. I'm like, why is she not here? What is she doing? Is she I'm just like, I think TV's just officially hurt me because she's not in one episode. I'm like, she's leaving the show. She's
It
gone.
was,
She's
it was
done.
Grays that killed any insurance you had in any medical drama of anything.
If one person's gone one episode, that means they're out. Well, like she's stepping down. Billy's taken over.
Kit's not stepping down.
Well, no, she's still, I think
She's still CEO.
I think Billy's taking over as general surgeon.
No,
What is
head
Billy
of
doing
surgery. Billy is head of surgery now.
Oh, I thought
And
she
that
was
position,
over for Kit. I was like, wow.
no, Kit can't be CEO and head of surgery. Kit can be CEO and then because that would be a conflict of interest. It would be,
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself all the paying things. So she's
Okay.
still a surgeon like Belle was when he was CEO. I just
Okay.
don't think she does many surgeries anymore.
I think she's more admin.
Ooh, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I
No,
was
she's
thinking
not
this whole
stepping
time
down.
Billy's taken over.
Mm-mm.
I was like,
oh no, I don't
like,
think
man,
Billy's
she's
ready to be
only been
CEO.
here not long. Like,
That would be
was
that
a
would be a
big
terrible.
jump.
Laura, Amanda just had this a wave of peace come over her.
I really did. Like, I didn't like it. There's the one thing I didn't like. That's what I was thinking in my head.
But I think Kit would have to be there for Conrad to make the jump back.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kit, I like how Belle and Conrad's relationship has grown, but they had to overcome something for that. Kit has always been someone that Conrad has implicitly trusted and respected. So I think if she weren't there, it would be really hard for him to come back because Kit was the one fighting for him to come back. And Kit was the one saying, what will it take to get you here? And even Belle said that we're ready to offer you anything. And I like that through all this, Conrad kept saying, I have to make my own hours. I can't sacrifice my fatherhood just because I want to do something in the medical field. Because he wants to be there. And in the last episode, he said, it was never my plan to leave.
Yeah.
So he's always wanted to be there. It has never been a question of that. So I like that he brought that up, and he's very upfront with, listen, I'll do this if this is what you can do. And then throughout his day, all the people got involved, and
I think that's pretty cool too. That's admirable because, obviously he's Conrad and it's Chastain, but in this time frame now for him, Gigi obviously comes first, above and beyond, his relationship to Chastain. But it's so cool that the hospital, the staff, everybody's willing to work with him so that way he can still, be all that he needs to be with Gigi.
yeah.
Out and save lives and be the Conrad that we know. So I think it's going to be a nice mix so that he can continue, to be in this hospital, and the show and the storyline can continue. But yet, it's just a new layer to it. There's a new element, Gigi, and it's pretty cool to see that.
And I think for Conrad, one thing he can never turn off is he likes to be in the thick of it. And he likes, whether he outright says it or not, and his style is different, I think, but he likes to teach people medicine and teach people this is what the problem is. Not like when he has a patient, he's like, this is how this works, and this is how you got this, and this is, but like in terms of the medical staff, he wants them to be better. He
Right.
wants doctors and surgeons and anesthesiologists. He wants the entire medical field to be better. That's
Yeah.
kind of who he is. And you could see that when he was the head of the interns, or the, what do we call that title? What was that title he had? He had to wear the white jacket.
Yeah.
The job that makes him wear the white jacket. That's
Yes.
the title.
What the heck was that title? We had this exact same conversation last week. Do you know that? Like exact same conversation.
Because I don't know.
Anyway, that's why he did it. And that's why he was Devin's teacher, instructor, because that's what he does well. And I like that you saw that in this episode, especially when he went up to that confused intern and he was like, what do you notice about her vitals? Like, oh, it stayed normal. And he was like, really? Because while we've been talking, it went down and back up and it did this and it did this. It's in the details. And so you see him start to come back into the teaching role. And when he's doing the concierge doctor, those people don't care. We saw that dude on the phone, barely even listening to what Conrad was telling him to do. And that's why Conrad can't stand that, because he needs to be able to make something better rather than just putting a Band-Aid on. I think it drives him crazy to just put Band-Aids on it.
Yeah.
And coming in there and talking with the interns and solving these problems, he's making things better.
Chief resident.
Chief resident. That's what it is.
resident.
Yes.
I should know that because that's the same thing on Grey's. That's what I kept trying to think of. I was like, it's Richard's position too. That's what was in my head.
Did you research that, Tiffany?
Yes, I did. I like your teacher of the residents, Amanda. That was teacher of the residents. That's the title.
Like,
You get like a cup like you do in Monty Python. So I think that all these things throughout Conrad's day, and I like too that when AJ came in, he's like, wow, you got AJ in on this too. So it's like all these things through his day that he missed. I don't think they intentionally, I think Irving maybe a little bit and Bell a little bit, but all these things, they didn't intentionally set up for him to come back. I think they were just things that naturally happen that Conrad needs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I did ultimately like his decision in the end. I think it's the right choice for him. I think it's where he belongs. They're all like, they're a family, and when Conrad's not there, the heart of the family is kind of missing.
Yeah.
It's not the same without him.
That's true. Yeah, it didn't feel the same.
No.
It felt like he was an outsider, and I didn't like that feeling.
I don't think he did either.
He built that hospital.
I think it was kind of
Didn't build that hospital.
that way because so many things have happened, so many things are different than they were before, and I think that was almost like their nod to that, like, hey, things aren't, you can't necessarily go home again, but you can go back to being great. And it was, I think the time jump kind of almost made it feel like it was just like this, like it wasn't real, like it was a what if episode.
Yeah.
It felt like. But at the same time too, to see them kind of bring it back to like, maybe you can't go home again, but you can make a new home, so that's kind of what it felt like,
Yeah,
no matter where home is, a family once they're together,
especially since the last couple of episodes felt like a transition. And we've talked about how so that I think the whole point of that transition was to transfer the power that we talked about earlier in this episode. And now that Conrad can come back into this new atmosphere, but still be Conrad, now we can pick up and get right back into what the resident does best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring
I'm
it-
really glad that they made that jump
Mhm.
and we didn't have to sit there and go through his private practice.
Yeah.
That
was
that's what I was just
necessary,
gonna say. Because it kind of feels to us like we didn't miss anything at all,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thankful for that. I don't
Definitely.
I don't like change.
It makes
And
it
I-
more too.
I wouldn't want to see Conrad sacrificing that much of who he is. I mean, that's what you do as a parent. You sacrifice for your kids. And I totally am on board with that. I get that. I like that he's going to continue to stick to that and stand up for it. Because when Belle said, what are you going to do about the work-life balance? And he said, I don't know, we're going to make it work. And I think he will. I think if anyone can find a way, it's Conrad. So I think he's going to fight for maintaining his place with Gigi. And I think it's going to be good. But I think if we would have had to watch him Like that, we only got one scene of him being a concierge doctor, and I wanted to hit that guy. Like, do you realize who's helping you right now, man? Do you realize what he can do for you? And you're just completely throwing him away. Even the looks on Conrad's face when he was in there was so irritated. And the saying is true that when you are unhappy, it's going to feed into your home life. It's going to feed into your kids. So if he would have had to do that for very long, it would have eventually affected how he parented.
Yeah,
So this is going to be good.
absolutely.
Mhm.
I think so. It's going to be exciting to see this
Yeah.
next chapter.
And like Gigi said, she likes it at school.
She does. I think she loves her daddy, but I think she needs other kids too. She needs to be able
But
to
she's
be a kid.
3, almost 4.
Almost 4, yeah. No,
No,
she is 4, I think.
is she 4?
Because it's all the time jump was almost 4 years. And she was around 9 months when Nick died.
Okay, I thought it was a 3-year jump.
No, it was, yeah, I think they said it was almost 4 years.
Okay.
So she's 4.
Yeah, that's about the age that, you start being introduced to, having kids her own age versus just, being a toddler at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that one of the things that really helped Conrad was the Trevor AJ situation.
I think that was really able to bring him in because it had such a personal connection.
Mm-hmm.
And he felt like, hey, I have a legitimate reason. Even they said, hey, I know, you're here for this, but can you help with that? And so it kind of domino affected bringing him back to Chastain, but especially this with Carol. I mean, it's AJ, it's Conrad. I mean, it's Mama Carol, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was such a personal connection, and how well they were able to weave in that storyline with Trevor's storyline. And, here we see him coming in, and not comparing him to other characters, but he's got that same, like, that arrogance that I know what I'm doing, which I think a lot of residents have when they come in. And so I think each one of them can see just a little shade of, oh, I know where the attitude's coming from. I know
Mhm.
I had that thought. I know why he said this, because they've all been there themselves. So I think they were able to pull that in. And I think, to see Conrad say, okay, let me give it a chance. Let's not
Mhm.
put him out yet. Let's give him a second chance. Let me see what we can do. Let's bring him in and see how he reacts. And for it to be such a tender, significant scene and situation to bring him into, and the connection that he has to AJ, and to pull him into that, it was like, okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna see what he's made of. We're gonna see what's underneath all of these layers, because we know that there's an underneath. So let's see what's gonna happen. And it seemed, that it had a positive result. I think they were able to hit where they wanted to. And like they said, it's going to be a process. It's going to be a journey if you go with him. But they've all had their own process. They've all had their own journey. And so I think that's why they're open to letting him take that journey, and not just, you're not going to make the cut, get out of here. They've all had those moments. So.
And I think that Conrad specifically highlighted the relationship between AJ and Trevor right there.
Yeah.
And then we kind of see, I like that they expanded on Trevor, Billy, and AJ together.
Yes,
out of that.
absolutely. To see that happen, because we see Trevor, we see Billy, and we see AJ, and that's what, 4 years ago. And there are awkward points within all of those relationships. Time has passed. He's obviously, AJ continued to mentor Trevor. They continued to, have those deep conversations. And I think that's kind of what helped bring Trevor out of where he was, in that lifestyle and in that place, and bring him to a point where, hey, he's going to medical school. Like, he actually
Mhm.
went to medical school. He's now interning. Like, those are big positive steps, to see. So to see that there's a positivity that's happened between AJ and Trevor, but I think that's kind of also bled in a little bit into Billy and Trevor, because obviously, they seemed more cordial with each other. She's still not wanting to acknowledge that he's her biological son. She's wanting to keep all of that separate from her professional life. And now, at the same hospital, but to see, I think they've made progress within that relationship too. And I think that has a lot to do with AJ being present, and they obviously still have a lot a lot to go. But it's cool to see how time has kind of affected that, and to see how they figured out a way to bring Trevor into the storyline without it being like, oh well, this is Billy's son that we just discovered. And obviously time has passed, so they've moved on from that point, but to be able to see how they can bring him in. So I'm excited to see where it can go. I mean, obviously she seems like she's made a little bit more peace with him being obviously present in her life, but
I think it's a little more than that, right? Because in the elevator, when he's saying he was just let go, and he said it's my first and my last day, and she was genuinely upset, because as we find out later in the episode, it's her who wrote the recommendation letter for him to come to Chastain. She
Right.
wanted him there. So it's more than just that she's come to terms with him, it's that she wants him. I don't know that she wants him to be near her necessarily, but I think she almost feels like now that he's in her life, now she feels this need to ensure he's protected, and if he can be protected where she's at, kind of thing. But she uses AJ in there because AJ did build that relationship with him before the time jump. You have to imagine that because at that point before the time jump, AJ said he called me to go out for coffee. So they've exchanged numbers. They've gone out occasionally to do things together. They were close enough that he really believed that AJ was the one who wrote this letter to him, or for him to be there. So you see him at first, that first time we see him and Billy together, and he's like, maybe medical school is hard for some people, but I'm a master of all things.
Yeah.
And then she says, apparently you haven't changed that. You haven't changed at all. So he's still feeling this need to really prove to her, I think, above all things. And I think that's one way that believing AJ is the one who wrote that. I think that's one way that kind of hindered his behavior in there, because he felt, okay, my biological mother works here, but AJ is the one who wrote me this letter. So I'm going to prove to her that I was not worth giving up. I'm going to prove to her that she should have loved me still, that I'm good enough to receive love. So he puts on this persona, and I love that in that elevator he broke down.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, medical school is hard. No one would take me. The only reason I got anywhere was because of AJ. And so you see that that's going to be built up somewhere. And especially now that AJ knows that she knows he didn't write the letter and that she's the one who wrote it. I think AJ, because I hope that this is what grounds him, because I'm still kind of shipping Billy and AJ.
I am
I
too.
really like them together. Anybody, Amanda, anybody else in that boat?
Yep, I do.
Oh yeah. I want them together.
There's a connection there.
Yeah. And really him helping technically her son.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something there. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we can all kind of come to terms with Mina's not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no more mention of her.
No,
I think if she was going to come back, they would have
especially since the time jump.
mentioned her. She's not coming back.
Mm-mm.
So I really like Billy for AJ.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that continues on. And I think we're going to end up loving Trevor. I do.
I do too.
Yeah, I do.
I think it just takes time, because there's other characters, like even when they introduce Billy, they introduce her the same way. She comes in very arrogant, and it's like, oh, I'm not gonna like this character, and even still, I mean, there's moments where she's done and said things where it's like, I really wish you didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
But with the time jump, within the other characters, she's warmed up, she's become like one of them, if you will. And so I think, as time continues to progress, you can tell that they're definitely leading in to an AJ Billy relationship, and it's almost like reverse, because he already has that relationship with Trevor.
Yeah.
And now versus like, well, here's somebody he's interested in, and then he gets to know her son. It kind of works backwards. It's setting everything up, for them to really have some, I don't want to say a family unit, because Trevor's not a child. It's not like they're not, he's not gonna.
And I don't think Billy and Trevor will ever have that.
Right.
And I don't think either one of them really want that.
Right. They're not looking for that, but I think they're going to get to the point where they all work together, where they have just a good relationship with each other, that family in the sense of like the rest of Chastain is a family.
Mm-hmm.
like the way Conrad and Devin are family. I think I can definitely see them getting to that point, and I think part of that is going to be Billy and AJ, becoming a couple. I think there's some potential there. You can definitely tell that's what they're setting it up for.
Yeah. And I think too that you look at Billy when she first came in, the reason she was arrogant at first is because she was trying to overcome an issue that she had the last time she was there. She was needing to prove herself because the last time she was there, Conrad was still holding over against her head. You killed one of my patients. You're the reason he's dead. So she's trying to overcome something that is being held against her in a very strong way. And she's trying to prove herself. That's what her son is now doing. And it's funny because AJ was the one telling Trevor, this is not how it is. This is going to be held over you. You're going to be arrogant, yada, yada, yada. And now as Trevor is arrogant, you see where AJ is, and they're both way up there being their egotistical selves. They're both at that same point. And it took Billy being able to be available for Trevor, for him to be vulnerable and break down his egotistical system and be like, no, man, I screwed up. And I'm not really as amazing as I thought I was. And I think Billy's going to be able to do that for AJ. And AJ's going to be able to be like, all right, I've been a complete moron with this whole book thing and it's nonsense. And you're right, Billy, you're right. I shouldn't be this way. And I think that with Trevor and Billy, I think like it did make me mad how he mocked her going to therapy. Like, come on, man. Don't mock someone for trying to be better and trying to get. I wonder if she ever did tell him why he was given up for adoption. It doesn't seem to me like she has. So her going to therapy and getting help and for him to mock it openly like that was just kind of insane to me. But in that elevator, when he was that vulnerable with her, you got the kind of sense that he almost wishes he had that. Yeah. So I think that Billy is going to be that centering force with AJ. And I think with AJ too, Carol is going to be a huge force there. I think that what she's going through is, obviously it already has had an insurmountable impact on AJ. Absolutely. And especially since we see AJ saying here, with my father gone, like, I'm really sad that his dad died. I love that actor.
That is so sad.
It's funny.
Oh,
I know.
wish that weren't the case.
But I love Summer Selby.
Yeah.
I'm real glad that and it seems like she's going to have a more substantial role though.
I think so too. And I don't think, obviously she's in a very bad situation at the point, but it's not necessarily has to be very limited for time. So I hope they capitalize off of having her present and having her there, especially with the time jump. It's not like it was Nick and she was unconscious after a car accident.
Yeah.
Just hours, I think that, you can definitely have her around for quite some time. And I think that would be fun because we want to see more of her.
Yeah.
We want to see more of her and AJ. And I think, especially now that AJ's dad is gone, I think it could just definitely really much needed dynamic, especially since they're focusing more on AJ and Billy. They're a couple, and Devin and Leela are the couples, just like it was, Nick and Conrad, but we don't have that anymore. So we have we have these other couples that we're focusing on that are being, brought up. And so I think that would be cool to see that, her in there, that dynamic.
And how stellar was her performance in this, by the way?
Oh, I know.
Like,
Round of applause.
Bravo to Summer Selby, because her scene when she was sitting there, he just kind of like hit me all over again. But her scene when she's sitting in that bed saying, I've already made my decision, and you could tell this decision is tearing at her. It just, oh my gosh, it was so emotional and it was so well done. So good. I loved it. But you see that it was even more devastating because AJ and her were like, this is a miracle drug. This trial we're on, it's a miracle thing. And she's been doing so great and she's been doing awesome. And it seemed like Conrad found the perfect solution to fix her problems. And this is what I love about Conrad's character in this too, is that he doesn't give up. And when AJ was at his book signing, first of all, I love that he's doing a book signing in the hospital. Like, let's just rub Belle's head and face in it just a little bit more.
Like Belle's conversation with Nolan.
Yes.
That was perfect.
So I think that with AJ, when that happened and Carol got off to take a picture and she fell down, and you see Conrad come running out of that, and I love a run. I don't love a running Conrad because running Conrad. I love it because you know that his fight's back. And I miss fighting Conrad so much. So when he came zooming around there and you see that he didn't give up. And so they had this miracle thing that took away what was going to kill her for certain. She watched her husband die and she's still there, only to find that's what's killing her. And the devastation that she had to have felt then. And I love that AJ let Conrad be that open and honest with her of it's going to hurt worse. This is going to be much worse for you. This is the reality of what the situation is. And IJ almost called him in there to do that. And so when Conrad and Belle and Billy all saw what was happening in that one room, and AJ didn't know how to tell him, he had Conrad come in there. And I thought, that has to be humbling for him, that AJ has to rely on someone else to give his mother the information that is heartbreaking for him to give her.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that grounds him.
Yeah. So too. And I think we've already, I mean, he's established enough that I think this is just, it's a fun, I guess plot point that's happening. But yeah, he's gonna come back down to earth. I think he's just
Absolutely.
He's just writing the book high, Belle's been there, and so I think it's just part of it, but still it's hard to see, him going through something so tragic. And it's like you just kind of want everything to be right for them, whether it's him coming back down to earth and not suffering from his own ego, whether it's, just having both his parents are healthy. I mean, you just want the best for all these characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to be able to see that play out, because in the end, it was AJ telling her, we don't have to decide right now. Conrad telling her, we don't have to decide right now. And Carol did make a decision. But you see the impact Carol has on the people already in that hospital, and the impact she's having on people she's never met before. I mean, when Conrad comes to the room, I think her first thing she said is, I thought you weren't here anymore. and like, she inadvertently was used to help woo him back to Chastain, because she's Mama Carol. Yep. And she loves these people. Anyone who is connected to her son, she instinctively loves, because they have the good judgment to love her son. And that's who she is. And you see her with Trevor and how she was able to help him recognize his mistake. She just loves her kids so much. And her son, she doesn't have multiple kids. She loves her son that much. And she's that genuinely good of a human being that I think they're going to pull that out longer while they make the decision, because I don't think that they couldn't have gone through all this to save her just to kill her off.
No, of course not. Yeah. It didn't make sense. That there's always going to be another plot twist.
Yeah.
But it just was a little too premature. So I think she's going to be there for a while. I think eventually she's going to, just decide to just, I mean, because they said if they can't win, if and when, but I mean, it could be a long time.
Yeah.
Before she comes back, and she could have a lot of really good years there, and a lot of good storylines and appearances. And I think that would be good if they did that. You had all of these things served its purpose, but you're still going to come back to, hey, she's going to be there for a little while more,
Yeah,
maybe. And then you never know, she's doing well, and then something else comes along that could help her. That's not things are always advancing. That could be another big plot point. I mean, you can make anything you want happen.
For sure.
So who knows where they can go with that.
And what a contrast in parental units we had in this episode.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's discuss Leela and Padma's parents.
Man, compared to Carol.
Wow. Like, I thought they would come around or something. I thought, okay, so I might have gotten Leela and Padma mixed up when they were sitting at that table. I thought they were giving Padma a hard time until they went into the bathroom, guys.
Wearing completely different clothes.
I know. I wasn't paying attention. I told you I was like doing stuff while I was watching this episode. And so I was like, well, of course they're going to like, a daughter who's a doctor, like super proud. That's probably usually that's the kid the parents are really proud of, they get that positive attention. So me just kind of like half watching it, I thought they were doting over Leela and Padma was just getting the brunt of it. And then I realized it was Leela and I was like, oh, hey, no.
Mhm.
And then I was completely against the parents from then on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like when we first see them and she's running around the house like crazy and Padma's waving sage around the apartment and while Leela's frantic in panic mode trying to hide all of Devin's things and like even hiding the pictures of him, like you can't have a picture of you and your boyfriend. I mean, they know you're dating Devin, right? You would have pictures of him, even if it was just you living on your own, you'd have a picture of you and your boyfriend up there. I mean, you guys have been dating for like almost 4 years.
And it seems like they like Devin.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But we talked about this in last week's episode too. In that culture, it's the man who, if you're a doctor, like, woo, yeah, way to go. But the woman's role is very, very different in that culture.
Mhm. It is sadly, very, very sadly, because they're like with her condition.
No.
Do you guys know how bad that pissed me off?
I thought of you as soon as they said it.
I wasn't even looking at the screen. My head whipped around. I said, oh, excuse me.
For a little bit of background, Amanda's sons are
Both
dyslexic.
of them are dyslexic.
I have a cousin who's dyslexic.
I was like, excuse me.
And especially you as a parent, like you would never say that to your sons. Are you sure you can do this
Absolutely
because of
not.
your condition? So when they're in the restaurant, you get like you see beforehand, obviously Padma and Leela have very different views of their parents and how they react, but you can tell that Padma still is clued into the fact that there is an imbalance there between how their parents treat them. So she's trying to help her sister calm down and make sure it stays clean in the air, which whatever. Her parents came in like, is something burning? Oh, I was waving sage around. Oh, that's your food. So they go to this restaurant and Padma goes up to fix the music. So right there, it's kind of like, oh, Padma, you're such a dear for fixing this for me. And then they're complaining about non-vegetarian options. Leela says it's on the back. They don't even hear anything she says at all. Leela comes back, or Padma comes back and says, it's on the back. Oh, thank you, Padma. Like they don't, Leela is the only one sitting right in front of her, and anything positive or helpful she has to say, it's like they can't even process, hear, or see her in any capacity.
No.
Yeah, I was just totally like blown away by that. It took me aback. I knew that they had some problems with their parents, but I was like, she literally just told you that and you blew her off, and now you're making a huge thing about, Padma telling you. So I was like, whoa, okay. I think it just was showing like this is the type of relationship they have. It was just a quick way to catch up the audience. Like this is where they're at. This is where they stand together,
Yeah.
And I think too that kind of bringing up the dyslexia and saying, well, with your condition, can you really do that? And Leela saying, you can say it. It's not like it's not something you can't say. I understand I have this and it's not as big of a deal as you're making it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
She has an impediment as her parents see it, something that should stop you from being great. Whereas Padma had cancer. Theoretically, that should stop you from being great because you have to put chemicals in your body just to outlive it. But you kind of see, because she mentions when I had cancer as a kid. Was anyone else shocked by that statement?
Yeah.
I was like, what did she say? And I missed, I guess, I don't know if it was too low, but I didn't hear her actually say the word cancer. I just said I had when I was a kid, and I realized that it was some sort of like really situation. So I was like, wow, that gives a little insight to her backstory as well.
Yeah.
I wonder if that had anything to do with Leela's decision to go into medicine.
Probably.
It did.
Yeah, I'm sure. I bet so. I do want to get more background on Leela.
Yes.
On Leela and Padma, or just
Well, both. I mean, I like both.
more than I
don't
said
know.
that. Pretend I didn't say that. I got confused because I mixed them up for a minute.
Oh. I was like, well, I guess Padma too, if she's sticking around. I do. I wonder if like is she just a guest? Or is she gonna be on here longer? Do we know?
I don't think they've said, because
Yeah,
what,
they haven't really studied.
what we know is she bought a van to travel around the US with, is all that we know.
True.
But she's still at their house
Yeah. Well, she's in the van at their
by the river.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and then that gives her the opportunity to come back as often as they want to write her in the show.
Exactly.
I love the chemistry between them. I think she would be a great addition.
It's like they're related. I mean, it's so
know.
weird.
It's like they're twins. Yeah. But I love the insight that, you know, we got to see in that. And it kind of gives you an idea of why she's such a free spirit, why it's like, you know, obviously we're trying to say that, hey, they're two extremes, you know, as far as being a free spirit, and the opposite of that between the two twins. But like she said, that her ordeal with cancer as a child, like that freed her, you know, she was able to realize that, hey, live every day as if it were your last. And
Yeah.
you know, so that was cool to see that insight. And that's a great attitude and opportunity to have. And then maybe, you know, in some places she maybe might take that a little bit too far, but you know, as you know, the concerns that Leela had, but at the same time too, that kind of helps bring a fresh breath, you know, into, you know, Leela's life, you know, because she does need that little bit of a release as well, you know. It kind of balances each other off really well.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm laughing at you. Did anyone else notice Amanda jumped there, or was it just me?
You thought something
No,
was
I missed that.
Like, I'm the one seeing everything tonight, so I look like I'm just being really rude. But Amanda almost flew out of her chair jumping a minute ago.
I was concentrated.
And I asked her what happened in the chat. And in the chat, she said, someone walked by the screen on the resident, and I thought someone was in here. So that's why I started laughing. So I'm sorry, Bethany, I was not trying to be rude to you. I need to stop watching other people if they aren't talking. I need to just stop.
I was concentrating into what you were saying, and then something moved like fast on the screen, and it just like caught the corner of my eye and it scared the crap out of me.
Oh my goodness. You were like getting ready to like fight someone or something. Like, no.
So I think that it would be nice to see more of Padma, because she is kind of a minor character right now, but I feel like she's going to be stronger. And I think that that's what they've been doing, is they built it into an ensemble. And you can kind of see that with Irving's character, how he's another little side character, right?
Yeah. I didn't like how Irving and Nolan were only in a couple of scenes this episode. I missed them.
I know.
Although I did like Nolan's little one-liners there. And I liked how
kind of a
Irving
role.
tries to pull Conrad back in. Just, hey, come check out this patient. There's a little something else going on here with him. Yeah, that was
I love that
that
little
was
trick
nice.
he made.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's like, by the
Act
way,
like he's needed.
He's clever.
He is. And you could tell by the look on his face that I didn't need you.
Yeah.
See, in fact, while he was fixing this patient, looked at Conrad and went, don't you miss this?
Mhm.
Clearly, I think that was twofold, though. I think it was him trying to get Conrad to be involved, but I think it was also like, this intern really annoys me. And I don't want to continue to deal with this intern on my own. So I'm going to pull Conrad in, who's going to set him straight. Because you can see Irving being like that, right? You can see me like, you annoy me.
Yeah, definitely.
it's like, I don't
After that one episode when he bit her head off, man.
Oh, that was my favorite Irving moment, I think. I love it.
I do too. I already said that. That was one of my favorite lines he ever did.
Absolutely. And so him and Nolan both had some pretty sweet, like they were short and they were singular. Nolan had two scenes, but one was like, I like the first one you see Nolan in where we're going to finish Irving yet, but they both had little scenes, but they were both things that you remember walking away from it. So I hope that this is them incorporating them in more, because before you would kind of see Irving in passing, he'd have lines here and there, but he had a legitimate scene where he was actually being a doctor, where he was actually taking care of something, where he was actually interacting in a substantial way. I know Jessica wasn't in this episode, but Irving was, so we'll take it. I like, even the way he walks with Conrad and they're talking, their banter back and forth. And we saw a lot of that last episode. I like that they're incorporating that in.
Yeah.
And I mean, Nolan's another character like that. And I like that that Irving is a bit character, and I hope that's a sign of thinking more lines. And he's not the only one in this episode who's typically a bit character who's gotten some good lines that you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think Dr. Nolan has like some of the craziest lines, like even not even on camera, like the other episode where Padma says, Dr. Nolan said some really mean things to you. Like, I really don't like the way he talks to you. It's like he's not even in the episode and he's making us laugh.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's funny, you see him there at the coffee cart, and there it is with, you could cut the awkwardness with a knife.
But he doesn't notice it at all.
It's
Nolan does not pick up on the awkwardness.
Yes, is he so self-centered? He doesn't notice it. Is he
I
just
don't
that
think he is really self-centered though. I don't think that's accurate.
I think he's just being Dr. Nolan.
Yes.
He didn't have his coffee yet.
Yeah.
Like back to the grind,
He's in his own world.
I think he just wants to be part of the team.
Yeah.
I think so too. He's kind of like that little puppy that you're just trying to accommodate. But it's funny because I think he truly can be the comedic relief of the show. And
Mhm.
he's not always seemingly pleasant, but that's what makes him funny. Obviously, obviously he was mad at Leela, so it wasn't like a pleasant conversation, but yet it made you laugh. Or
Yeah.
like even the book signing, there he is there with Belle and watching AJ, and it's like, make you jealous. It's like, what? Like, that used to be you. It's
Yep.
like, no one else in that hospital would walk up to Belle and say that, and then and it's hilarious. It's like, we should write a book. And like, okay. Like, what? And I just love that. He's like, well, your brain's in my looks for obvious reasons. So it's like I don't even know if he realized how that sounded, to
Oh, I
them,
think he did. But
Definitely.
nothing puts him off.
right. Like, he's in his own little world,
Mhm.
coming out with these one-liners that are just like,
Yeah.
hilarious, and I think he truly is a comedic relief. At first I didn't kind of notice that, but like when you look at it, and
Mhm.
I think he should really have a bigger role on the show. I mean, we need to see more of Dr. Nolan.
Absolutely. There's actually want to read a comment from our YouTube channel. We did an interview with Michael Hogan and who plays Dr. Nolan. If you have not watched the interview, you can watch it you can listen to it on like Spotify, iTunes, wherever you're listening to this podcast, you can listen to our interview with Michael Hogan. Again, that's Dr. Nolan. If you're on YouTube, you can actually watch our interview with him, and it's more fun because you see all our faces, you see his faces. His face, he only has one.
All
But
his faces.
on YouTube,
Obvious
one
reason.
of there's an account that's called Laughing Without an Accent. She said about Dr. Nolan, I love his character. I'm starting a campaign to get him more lines. Yes, please. And let us know when you do that, Laughing Without an Accent. Wish to know your real name because we will sign it.
Yes.
We'll jump on that.
Oh yeah.
And we will get him that episode that's fully him narrating CTV footage. Please, 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 please.
And if you don't know what
Yeah.
that means, watch the interview.
Mhm.
You'll
Yes.
know what it means.
I think that even when he's talking to Dr. Bell about it, like Bell is clearly, his facial expression is clearly saying, get away from me.
Yeah.
Just go. And when he says, goodbye, Nolan, Nolan just stares at him for a minute and then says, think it over. And then walks away like, "Do-do-do-do-do." Nothing turns him off from conversation with people. He's just that kind of person who I think he just likes being around people.
Yep.
Yes, that was perfect. And then, maybe we can have, more right guesses with that Mary Poppins costume.
Yes.
Like, I was floored by that. The reason why I thought of that is because I actually wore a Mary Poppins costume to Comic-Con. And so I don't know, I guess it was just fresh on my brain. And I'm thinking like, oh yeah, the Halloween episode with Mary Poppins costumes. And
Kudos to him not saying anything during that interview.
I
though.
know. I went back and I watched the interview and I saw him like not react, but like knowing now that there really was a Mary Poppins costumes and nobody knew but him, to see that him not reacting, you can kind of tell that he was like, whoa, like he knew, like you can see it afterwards knowing. So it was pretty cool. So you guys got to go back and watch the interview of Michael Hogan and find out what we're talking about because it's just absolutely hilarious.
Yes, for sure. Go watch that. And I mean, what better way to end an episode other than talking about Michael Hogan and Dr. Nolan?
Absolutely.
I don't think these we call them bit parts, but they're not insignificant parts. We don't call them bit parts because they don't matter. We call them bit parts because they haven't been written enough into the show.
Yeah.
But they are important pieces of this resonant puzzle. They are big reasons why we love this show. I mean, that comic relief is a huge reason of
Mhm.
why we love the resident. And we've talked about it, and we'll talk about it again, and we'll continue to talk about it until the time ends. But every drama needs some levity, or it's just too heavy. And so I think that the people who bring levity, which are Dr. Irving and Dr. Nolan, that is so necessary. And I literally don't think the show would work without them. So they're not bit parts because they are insignificant. They're just bit parts because we're anxiously awaiting when this ensemble cast includes more of them. So we're going to end this podcast episode on important people. And let you know that if you want to reach out to us about anything we do with our podcast, if you want to know what's going on with us, what we're up to, you can reach out to us at familyfanclub2021@gmail.com. If you want to talk more residents, or you want to talk resident all the time, our biggest and fastest growing group of our Facebook groups, we have 15 of them, is our resident group, which is the Resident Chastain Family Fan Club. Join that. We regularly do fun posts. We do activities, games, puzzles. We do discussion, not puzzles. Puzzles was a weird thing to say. Mental puzzles maybe is where I was going with that. I don't know. But that's not something we do, just to be very clear. We don't give you jigsaws to do on that page. But we do have discussion questions that we ask, and you can answer, you can participate. If you're like us and you just want to talk to the resident, join that group. That's where it's at. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all those things under some variation of Fandom Family Chats. We just recently changed all of our social media postings to go from FB Family Fan Clubs to Fandom Family Chats. So if you're watching an old episode and you see that link, it might not work. So search Fandom Family Chats and you'll find us there. We're doing some good. We're upping our TikTok game. And by we, I don't mean anyone except for Jeanette, because she's the only one involved in the TikTok game. But she is building us up there, baby. So all that to be said, we are going to catch you up on Grey's Anatomy on Wednesday, followed by another resident episode on Sunday. And we have some fun Christmas things planned for you. So coming up in December, Christmas is coming up, guys.
Yes.
And we have some gifts for you, as it were. So on that note, we'll see you guys in a week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.